guys? Wyatt Claypool here, and welcome back to the OneBC post-game podcast with OneBC leader Dallas Brodie. Well, nothing really happened today. We can just
we could just get up and leave. No big news.
Yeah, this is gonna
only that the whole Lower Mainland has now been signed over to one Indian band in Vancouver. This
is gonna be a long episode.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just start from the top. So Mark Carney's federal Liberals just gave away the Lower Mainland to the Musqueam First Nations. I don't know, maybe they once picked up Carney's groceries for him or something like that. I don't know what they did to deserve, show the photo, that much land being given to them, but this is the world we now live in, and Musqueam Aboriginal title has been placed over that entire area with the red outline.
Yep. See the red outline on here? This red outline starts on the south side of the Fraser River and goes all the way up through Port Coquitlam, around Burnaby. It goes through Delta. It covers Richmond, Vancouver, Burnaby, West Vancouver, not quite North Vancouver looking there, but Port Coquitlam. It's astonishing. And this was just somehow leaked quietly into the media last week, and it was only picked up by a perspicacious journalist who saw it, and it was buried. This whole announcement was buried in a federal fisheries news release. So they buried the lead and tried to hide that this was even happening. It's outrageous.
So now apparently Wayne Sparrow, the chief of the Musqueam band, is now the king of the Lower Mainland.
He is the king. Yeah. He's the king of the Lower Mainland, because apparently they're giving joint decision-making authority over this whole area to this small band. There are 2 million residents in this area alone, and now they have joint decision-making authority over everything that goes on in this area. Think about that, guys.
But don't worry. Now the Musqueam First Nations can be more self-sufficient by being more reliant on ever, by basically having a government step in and give them money. You know, giving them people's property taxes, a portion of that, giving them say over a projects go forward in the area. Maybe developers will have to ask them permission for things, which is another opportunity to get a bribe. It's just insane that this is happening. And what's the reaction been at the BC legislature today?
Well, today, thankfully, one of the Conservative MLAs, Scott McInnes, got up right away and asked a question, which was right on point, and I was really happy that he did that. But he asked a question, and then Spencer Chandra Herbert, who's the Minister of Reconciliation, just deflected and said, oh, but it's not our agreement. It was the federal government that did this. It had nothing to do with us, and I've just learned of it myself today. Well, that's just not, that can't be true.
Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. My thing is, it doesn't really even matter. That's actually where I kind of had a problem with Scott McInnes' question, because he just asked about, when did you guys know about this? And does it make it better if they knew about it beforehand? Because the Conservatives' message has been, well, this lacked transparency. This was done in secrecy. That's why it's bad. And I'm like, well, surprise birthday parties are planned in secrecy. I'm not happy about a criminal robbing me if they schedule it ahead of time. That's kind of the problem. So I did find the Conservatives are still burying the lead on what's going on here.
They are, because really, yes, the secrecy is horrible. Yes, the stealth nature of this is horrible. But what's truly horrible is that this has just been done unilaterally. The band and the federal government have made this deal behind our backs, and none of us saw this coming. Did you ever hear Mark Carney running on this platform? I plan to give away the whole Lower Mainland of Vancouver to one little band that only has 1,200 people living there. Did you ever hear that election promise? I didn't hear that promise. I think that if that had been raised during the election, that might have swung some votes away. And then one of the most interesting things about this, and I'm just going to jump right into this, in Vancouver Quadra, like my riding covers the area. Vancouver Granville is the federal riding, and then Vancouver Quadra. And my riding of Vancouver Quashana sort of straddles both of those. So Wade Grant took over from a previous Liberal MP named Joyce Murray, and he won this riding. He is one of the big poobahs down there on the Musqueam Indian Band Reserve, and he's got a specialized role down there, and he's well connected. And he's an MP, and he must have known about this deal being done. In fact, we know he did, because I've sort of been looking back on the internet, and I would say this is an incredible conflict of interest. How can he be negotiating against his constituents in favor of the people on his reserve? You can't do that. You can't have it both ways. And this has to be called out. I can't put a fine enough point on this. This guy, Wade Grant, is in a massive conflict of interest. He should have either stepped down in his role as MP, or he should have called this out and said, no, I have to take this to my constituents first. And then there's Talib Noor Mohammed, also a federal Liberal. He's in the riding of Vancouver
Yeah,
Granville.
constantly chirping you. Him and Wade Grant are constantly chirping you and calling you names
Oh yeah, they always
and
call me
attacking
names.
you.
Yeah.
Couldn't find the time in the
Everybody
middle of
attacked me, Wyatt. Everybody.
but in the middle of attacking you constantly, they had whatever on their desk indicating that this was going to happen. They're
Yep.
like, should we let constituents know about it? Nah, let's attack Dallas Brodie again for saying things that are true.
But see, whenever they're attacking me, I know they're deflecting away from something else naughty that they're doing in the background. And this is more than just naughty either. That you guys, this is incredible. This is basically saying that Aboriginal title now sits above all of the property rights in this area. They're saying, oh, it's just, but they're trying to say things like, well, it won't affect private property. But I say, no way. This will affect private property, and you can be darn sure it's going to affect private property.
Well, the whole idea behind the Musqueam ban's win was that now they're going to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
How does this make you more self-sufficient other than effectively extorting people for money?
Yeah.
They said they will now be able to work with developers around new developments that are happening, new initiatives from the government, new initiatives from basically when you boil it down, it's just they're going to get a piece of the pie. Why is self-sufficiency always mean more government regulations and deals that require people to give you money?
For the rest of the world, self-sufficiency means standing on your own 2 feet, using your own initiative, creating your own business, raising money, and starting out. For this is not self-sufficiency to take other taxpayers. First of all, we give you the land for free. Then we give you the money at low interest loans, or just give you the money, and you get to go and play with the money that everybody's given you. This is not self-sufficiency. I mean, this is just incredible. And we know that this doesn't benefit the ordinary Aboriginal person living on the reserves, because I know, because they phone me and say this is just ridiculous. And so I actually couldn't sleep last night when this came across on the weekend, or I guess I first saw it yesterday. And at first I thought it was a joke. A lot of people thought this can't be true. This is some kind of AI joke. No, it's not. It's real, and it's being done. And as far as I know, it's a done deal. And there are 3 agreements they've crafted to do this, to strike this deal. And when people have asked for copies of the agreements, they're saying, no, they're secret. So we're not even allowed to see what's in the agreements that they've struck.
Well, and the thing that makes us extra ridiculous with the NDP dodging on the topic and saying, well, this was a deal done between the federal Liberals and the Musqueam, and we had no involvement. I'm like, why don't you endorse the decision? Because they sign deals like this all the time.
Yep.
But now that it's affecting the Lower Mainland, where the NDP has a lot of seats,
Yeah.
now it's awkward to celebrate agreements like this.
Well, and all of the other agreements that are being negotiated in secret by the provincial government are very similar to this. Basically just proclaiming Aboriginal title over these vast areas of land. I mean, the poor Sunshine Coast has already been hit hard by this. The Seashell Nation has taken huge swaths of Pender Harbor, Garden Bay, Nelson Island, that whole area up there. Then the Squamish was secretly given the whole area covering Howe Sound, Keats Island, Gambier, on down into Squamish. I mean, it's incredible what's been going on. And oh, I forgot to say this. None of this whole agreement, this was discovered by Juno News, a reporter who found it buried into the fisheries announcement. None of this has been reported on CTV, Global, or CBC yet. Think about that. They're not reporting it. This is probably one of the biggest stories to hit our province in 20 years. Aboriginal title has been declared over the city of Vancouver, Burnaby, Richmond, West Vancouver, parts of Port Coquitlam, and parts of Delta. This is massive.
You get all the hacks coming out of the woodwork that always claim, well, no, they're not going to take your house away from you. They're not going to take your property away from you. It's like, but am I going to end up paying part of my property taxes to a band that I don't actually have say over who's leading them? I don't know. You don't get to vote on who's on the Musqueam Council. You don't get to vote on who the chief is, and yet they might take a large portion of your property taxes, meaning that your own local municipality is going to have to raise property taxes because maybe they're going to lose 5, 8, 9, 10% of their revenues over to some random band of 1,500 people.
Well, we recently saw this in that mine that we were talking about the other day, where they're taking 35% of the mineral tax revenue from that mine, and this diverting taxpayers' money to these small bands is it's insane, and nobody's even talking about it. We sit in the legislature doing, "Hi, my daughter's birthday is today. Hi, oh, so and so got the Kiwanis Award today. Oh, it's so exciting that my husband's here visiting today." I'm like, the province is burning down around us, and we're talking about people's birthday parties. It's incredible, Wyatt.
Well, we stood in for the BC Conservatives press conference after QP today,
Yes.
where interim leader Trevor Halford brought up this topic and the whole daylight savings time change. I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later, and extortion. But I find their position against the Musqueam deal so thin because they still use the term traditional territories.
I know.
They buy into the narrative that somehow because you have ancestors who walked around this area hundreds of years ago, that you have some sort of legal right to it. And they always give away the game on that. It's really obnoxious. You look at the tweets from Trevor Halford, from other BC Conservatives, and they never actually say it's a bad decision. This needs to be rolled back. The Liberals need to reverse this. It's always, this lack transparency, and that's the thing that keeps like driving me up the wall. They're pretending to fight it while not actually fighting it. Even
That's
Halford
right.
in the press conference today, sorry to go on a bit long here, but
It's okay.
he mentioned we need to be focusing on the things that really matter, not this daylight savings time thing. It's a distraction. We should be talking about DRIPA. It's like, you haven't been talking about DRIPA this entire time. Remember, they were the ones who were saying we need the legislature to reconvene so we can get rid of DRIPA. And then we came back, and that was the first time I heard Trevor say it, was in this press conference, because it was forced back into the headlines by another agreement.
It's actually interesting because I actually really thought Trevor did a good thing over Christmas to say we should recall the legislature immediately to repeal DRIPA. And of course, David Eby said no way, and that he just wants to amend it and so on, which of course is a foolish game. And the whole thing needs to be just a fuelo out, get rid of it. And so, so today, I mean, I would have thought that when we came back into the ledge this term, we would have been on DRIPA almost every day, hammering. It is the weakest spot in the NDP. They are facing such problems with this. You go for the jugular on these things, and this is killing our economy. It's affecting BC. It's affecting quality of life. It's hitting on everything. And so I don't know why they haven't been on it.
Well, they can make
every
the
day.
excuse like, oh, well, we needed to focus on the budget. You had a QP question. You touched on the budget, and you touched on DRIPA, and I think you touched on a couple other things in a single question. It's possible.
Yes.
Well, what did the Conservatives ask in the QP today?
Well, we had, I think, 7 questions about long-term care beds. They asked the same question, basically. I mean, 7 different people asking questions about the same thing. And like I've learned that in question period, the minister who's answering these questions just gets used to answering the same question over and over again. So they just make her job easy. And, you know, Bowen Ma is the Minister of Infrastructure today, and she was answering these questions, and she just kept, you know, hitting the tennis ball back, and they would just, it's like a rally. It's not really even
with the member on the other side.
Yeah, we would love to work with you.
Infrastructure. We've already made great strides on this file, and we'd love the opposition to help us help us with this infrastructure problem that we've been facing since the last BC Liberal government. Like, I could do their jobs for them. It's so easy to deflect on the issues because the questions are boring. They're tactically inept when they're going after the BC Liberals, because what we hear is that they're not allowed to ask good questions, or you'll have somebody come and slap you down as a BC Conservative MLA.
And I don't know why, because actually McGuinness and Halford got off to a good start, and I was impressed that they were going for it, and they should have stayed on it. Stay on it, keep your foot on their neck.
But then they never actually get to the substance of the problem, though.
No, they didn't.
It's the transparency and the secrecy part. So I had the same reaction. The first half of the question's good. The supplemental, they just go back to, when did you know about the agreement? Like, it doesn't really matter. This is like the 5th biggest problem with it. The biggest problem is the undermining of private and public property.
Yeah.
I don't care if it was done in secret or not. That's the main problem, is the undermining.
I mean, this is really incredible, Wyatt. I mean, and we put some numbers out. There's been a calculation done
Yeah,
that,
Mark Nixon did these. He did a really good job
yeah, he did do a good job
bringing
of
all the
this.
data together.
The lower mainland assessed real estate is calculated to be at about worth $1.92 trillion, 1.92 trillion, this whole area. And so that would come out to $1.28 billion per band member for the Musqueam Indian Band. $1.2 billion per band member. Okay. The city of Vancouver is calculated to be worth 492 billion, which would come out to 328 million per band member. So the Musqueam Indian Band apparently has 1,495 people, 55% of whom live on reserve. And so now we are going to have Chief Wayne Sparrow basically being the king of the lower mainland with his band. And we know that this money and what they earn is not going to go to help the average person living down there. It will stay at the chief and council level, which is what we're hearing all across the board.
It always drives me up the wall whenever you see these bands where 600 people live on reserve, and you see that the government, and through other revenue sources that are usually mandated by the government, like mineral tax revenues having to go towards them, they're getting in like 25, $30 million, $40 million. And if you just divided that between every member, which is tax free, by the way, they don't pay taxes on these benefits, there shouldn't be a poverty issue. There shouldn't be a clean drinking water issue. Now, this doesn't really apply to Musqueam because they get to live vicariously off of the benefits of the city of Vancouver. But in other areas where they have problems with water and infrastructure and housing and all this, how do you have a problem? You have $30-40 million a year, sometimes going into bands of only 200 people. It's insane.
Well, this is why there have been these lawsuits across Canada, Wyatt, with band members taking their chiefs and councils to court because they struggle to get accountability from the chiefs and council, and they get in trouble for asking questions. They get penalized, they get punished, they lose their job, or they get shunned, or other types of punishments are meted out against them. And so what do they learn? Just keep your mouth shut and just go along with it, and act like you're not seeing anything or knowing anything. And this is the sad part of all of this. And really, it's like getting an inheritance. Like this reconciliation has to come to an end. This cannot go on forever where we're just constantly going on and on like this. It has to come to an end. The apologies have been made, the reparations have been made, and now it's time to phase it out and have people get up and walk on their own 2 feet forward. That is the best answer for this. This can't keep going on. I mean, part of the problem too, Wyatt, is the damage this has done to our economy, just having UNDRIP, then DRIPA, and then the environmental groups and the Indigenous consultations strangling our resource extraction has killed our economy to the point that, like, how are we going to keep paying any of this? We're killing the goose.
They'll tax rich people more.
But I keep saying that the rich people are already leaving. The rich people make their tax arrangements. They always say tax the rich, but you know what? It always comes back and hits the middle class. And that's really where the penalty lies. It always hits the people who can't afford to have pricey tax lawyers and tax accountants structuring their affairs and creating foundations and trusts and other ways to avoid taxation. They just have to take it on the nose. And this is what I'm really worried about. We are killing the middle class with all of this. And it's so sad because it's just poor planning. It's unfair and it's undemocratic. And I don't know why governments see this as okay when 96% of the population is not Indigenous, and even the Indigenous population is probably 0.0001% of that population that's even benefiting from this.
Yeah.
So we are actually not helping what we think we're helping, and we're just feeding into this massive pit of just, well, we call it the reconciliation industry. And of course, who knows where all the money's going, actually. I mean, and as we know, federally, the Trudeau government, when they came into office again, after Harper was out, Trudeau, one of the first things he did is he told all the chiefs he wouldn't enforce the Transparency and Accountability Act anymore. And remember, the last time in 2014, Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, his declared income at that time was around $950,000 a year, tax-free. So imagine, that was 2014, back when he still had to declare it. Imagine where that income's sitting now.
Even just with inflation, it'd be absurd.
But so that's one person making that much money. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense, and they should be accountable. But anyway,
so we have a news update live on the podcast. So this is from Rob Shaw, and he says, just hours after insisting Ottawa didn't brief him on the federal Musqueam agreement, hasn't seen it, and doesn't know what's in it, David Eby's office admits Premier actually attended the Musqueam Ottawa signing event in person in his riding, but says Premier still unaware of the contents. You know, it's just a comedy show around here.
Did you hear that?
But let's talk about something serious.
I was having so much fun.
The daylight savings time. Let's talk about we got the fluff out of the way. What do you think about the daylight savings time change?
Well, what is it? Spring forward, fall back, spring ahead, right?
You know, I was actually disappointed they changed it. I think it unified us, being able to complain about the time change every year, and apparently it's good for farmers or whatever.
Well, I thought they were going to announce an election today. I mean, it was this big thing, an announcement by David Eby and Nikki Sharma today at 12:15 p.m. There was a whole announcement sent out, and I thought, good grief, are they actually going to do it and call an election or something like that? Or maybe, who knows what they're also going to announce?
They're not going to call it. Like after that budget, and the fact that they've already punted on their $1,000 grocery rebate, they're not doing it.
But the announcement was that they're canceling daylight saving.
I know. And like, he knew the federal announcement was out there. It's not like it just happened this morning and he couldn't change the time. Like the children they brought in for the photo op, for like the video of them like dancing or whatever, that was like, these are kids from a school like a few blocks away from here, apparently, like the South Park Elementary School. You could have rescheduled it. Do it on the end of the week. Like the news about the Musqueam agreement hit like 2 days ago. Why not have a press conference about that? About what the province is going to do
they were
about
trying
it.
To deflect.
The problem, maybe, could be possibly.
Maybe they were trying to get the attention off here, Wyatt, over to here.
Doesn't it just give lie to the idea that Mark Carney is ever actually going to approve a pipeline?
Yes.
The fact that he is doing this, because the federal Liberals are nearly as much of a problem as the BC NDP government, because they work pretty much hand in glove with all these things. They almost like tag team who's going to take the heat from signing another stupid agreement with an Indigenous band. Yeah.
Well, you know, this is not the first time that one of these horrible agreements has been springed out after the fact. I mean, the first one, remember, they held back the agreement right before the election that was hitting the Sunshine Coast in Randine Neal's riding. And she apparently wasn't even aware of it. So they held it back until after the election and then brought out this massive agreement with the seashell ban right after the election, and much to the surprise of all the people who lived up in Randine Neal's riding. I mean, Randine, I think, is a very nice person. She's the NDP MLA up there, but she didn't even know. And she was broadsided by that announcement, and that must have been horrible for her. And so they don't even tell their own MLAs when they're doing things. And then, you know, this federal government pulling this stunt. I mean, I have to believe there's a bigger agenda here. You don't just give away a whole city. Who would do that? Who would do that? I mean, what kind of leader would do that?
I always like the excuses again, where they're like, they're not going after people's private property. They're not going after, you know, the buildings that are already built and all that stuff. And it's like, then why did they sue for all the land?
Okay,
why didn't they just? I don't think they should be taking any of it because it's not theirs. But even if they only cared about the parks and some of the other things they want some say over, they would have just filed a lawsuit about that. They filed a lawsuit for everything because they want everything.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear. You know, in court, you don't just do things for fun. You do things because it matters to you. And so the entire Lower Mainland mattered to them. That's why they filed it this way.
So you wonder how long the federal government's been working on this for. When did Mark Carney come up with this plan? Did Talib Nur Muhammad know about it and Wade Grant? Did Joyce Murray know about it? This is government by stealth. We're seeing this time and time again. They didn't run on this. Did Mark Carney say he was going to cede the entire Lower Mainland of British Columbia to an Indian band that's comprised of 1,400 people? No. So where's the participation in democracy here?
Isn't this a new Liberal government as well? Because if this was started under Justin Trudeau, why didn't they scrap it? They just continued with it. I think they were assuming that no one, did they really think no one was going to criticize this? This is kind of a big deal issue.
Well,
Yeah.
but you see, if we weren't talking about it a lot of people wouldn't even know about this, because Juno News isn't watched by a lot of people. It's a good news outlet, but
Yeah.
they're, you know,
No
CTV.
insult to them, but
No,
they're
not
not
at
like,
all.
they're not
They're
pulling
not.
down
No, but
millions a
CTV,
day.
Global, and CBC, nothing.
Yeah.
This should have been breaking news all over the main news today, and
They'll
nothing.
be forced to cover it, but it's going to be what they normally do. Like, actually, here's a great example. We just had a great OneBC event in Vancouver
Yes.
yesterday with over 450 people showing up. And you had an interview with a City News reporter
Yeah.
about the event and about your position on transitioning children and wanting to ban the practice, ban puberty blockers for minors,
Yeah.
all that stuff. What was that mainstream media interview like?
Well, you could tell that the reporter, this young fellow, was trying to do a gotcha questions on Billboard Chris and me. And, it was obvious he was sort of smirking at us while he was asking his questions. I mean, that's okay if that's his opinion, but he was trying to catch us out, and really, I don't know, just.
He claimed that the OneBC bill to ban child transitioning is not popular because it didn't pass first reading.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I didn't even know what to do with that.
I know.
It's like, it almost passed, actually. Even the Conservatives had to vote for it because it was just
It's true.
obviously crazy to not vote for it, although they're not putting stuff forward like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he's trying to make it seem like because the NDP government blocked the bill, it's not popular in the public.
Yeah.
The protesters we had were like a tiny group of crazy people. That's who came out to oppose our position. But he's claiming because the NDP government blocked something because they're ideologically left wing, ergo it's not popular. And that's the legacy media assumption. If the left wing establishment doesn't like it, that means it's not popular.
Yeah, he said there's no appetite for what you're talking about. And I said, well, I beg to differ. I said, look at the number of people in here today. I think it was closer to 500 people. Do we have the actual numbers? I don't know. It was huge, though. It was packed.
The fact that the difference in how big the event is
silly.
Like multiple times bigger than a BC Conservative leadership event is hilarious to me. Like, these people are only pulling in like 20 people for an event, and we bring in like 400 to 500
on a Saturday afternoon. And so the thing is, people are wanting to talk about this issue. The problem is everybody's getting blocked when they try and bring it up. And OneBC has been the only voice, and Tara's brought it up too, and we've but we are working on bringing these issues forward because people do want to talk about them. They want someone to stand up for it. I said to this reporter, I said, all of the government right now is on your side. They all feel the same way you do, and you have trouble with one person in the legislature saying something different. I find that interesting, that you can't even tolerate one voice that's saying something different than the rest of them. They're so threatened by me. It's incredible.
Well, with that, thank you for being here for another episode of the OneBC post-game podcast, guys. We're going to go back in and keep fighting with the NDP government.
Yeah.
If you guys want to support the party, you can check out the website in the description below. Consider donating, obviously, if you only live in British Columbia. If you give $100, you actually get 75% of it back. So
that's right.
It's the least you can end up doing for the party. Or I want to rephrase that. I don't want anyone who's actually genuinely struggling to donate, by the way.
No.
But it's pretty, $100 gets
right.
you $75 back on your taxes, and it's helpful for building the party because we're growing with leaps and bounds, just like our town hall crowd sizes are.
Because I can say, we appreciate, even if you can send $10, $20, it makes such a difference. We appreciate every penny sent in, and we're very grateful. We're doing good work, and I'm very focused, and our little team works like crazy all the time to try and let people know what's really going on. So anyway, thank you very much for listening today. And Wyatt, it's been a pleasure as usual.
Absolutely. See you guys all later.
See ya.